you so much. It's so weird seeing it on a big screen, I have to say.
Oh, that was a beautiful clip. I'm going to get right to it.
Okay.
What made Goodbye June want to be your directorial debut? Talk to me about how this film came to be and how you came to produce it and direct it and then star in it.
Well, I didn't actually mean to do all three of those things. I just want to say that now. I was given the script by through quite an unusual source, actually, and it was something that I hadn't expected. It was written by my son. Thank you, that was very kind. My son, Joe Anders, who is here in this room actually, he had left school and he had started to declare that maybe he was interested in acting, actually, and he had some small success across a year or so. But he'd always been a writer. From when he was a little boy, wherever we went in the world, he always had a notebook. I was very familiar with his monologues and his poetry. And throughout his life, it seemed to be a creative side of him that always pulled him through. So he left school, he plucked up the courage and he got a place in screenwriting school. And he came out the other side and he said to me, I've written something and I wonder if you'd read it. And he said, it's probably really crap. So just, if it is, just lie, because I did actually. Anyway, just read it and you'll tell me what you think. And I read it. And immediately it was clear to me that this was a screenwriter and this was going to be a film. And I said, okay, we're going to do it, we're going to produce it. And he was like, what, no, Mum, no, don't, no. Like, that's not a thing. It's not supposed to be like an assignment you have to big me up about. And I said, I don't need to big you up. I'm telling you, we are going to make this into a film. I was going to produce it. He developed it across approximately a year after that, and I was going to play the role of Julia, as I ended up doing. Netflix were wonderful. They immediately supported him as a first-time screenwriter and could also see the wonderful sides of the story to do with family and those interpersonal dynamics that take place for so many people. And also, we all die, we all lose a parent, whatever family looks like to you, and we're not very good at talking about that. We're not good at preparing for a moment like that one, especially if you're part of a family like this film, where people aren't talking to each other. There are two sisters who haven't spoken for several years, their children haven't even met, and they were thrown together in this way to deal with the impending loss of the matriarch. And it's a story about family. It's not a story about a person who dies, and it is cathartic, and it was up to me to get in there and bring that off the page. And I found myself turning to my son when it was ready to be sent out to directors, and I just said, we can't do it. I'd never forgive myself if we let this story go. And I think I'm ready and I would like to direct it, and so I did.
Well done. I will say I love this film. I have no problem watching it multiple times. And there's so much nuance in the script. At one moment it's heartbreaking, and then it's hilariously funny and so moving and touching. Talk a little bit about assembling this cast, because it's an all-star lineup. It really is.
Yeah, we do have Helen Mirren, Tim Spall, Toni Collette, Andrea Riseborough, myself and Johnny Flynn. But the willingness that they all showed in jumping on board right away was absolutely extraordinary. Andrea Riseborough, I have just worked with her several times in a row, and she read the same first draft that Joe shared with me, which actually was incomplete. He still had 20 pages to go until he'd finished it. And she said yes based on that. And she said, I would love to play the character of Molly, and it's she and I, the two sisters who haven't spoken in a very long time. It was personal outreach, you know. Some of these actors I'd worked before, Toni Collette, strangely, I'd never met. And I'd never met Johnny Flynn. My son was at an event that he happened to be at and kind of dared to say to him, oh, hi, I'm Joe Anders and I've written this script and maybe when it's ready, would you read it? And he said, I'd absolutely love to. So this sense of goodwill that was very apparent, it really felt like a heartbeat. And it was so important that I cherished that and acknowledged it and pulled them all together and created really a circle of trust. And I wanted to offer these actors a different way of working on a film set, because there are so many things that we're all used to when it comes to the technical side, but a lot of those things actually serve to create obstacles in the way of really playing those parts and really finding the intimacy and the quiet and the humour. That's the other wonderful thing about the script. You know, when you go through a loss, and I've experienced the loss of my own mother, there are weirdly humorous things that do happen, that you find yourself thinking, hang on, how can I be possibly laughing when we're facing all of this thing together? And what's wonderful is that the screenplay doesn't shy away from that. I altered the on-set environment by doing a few very specific things. I thought to myself, how can I offer Helen Mirren and Timothy Spall, two veterans of the film world, an opportunity to really be utterly real? How can I give them that? So what I did was, we didn't have any overhead booms, we didn't have any radio, we didn't have radios, we had radio mics on all of the actors and all of our children. I have 7 children in the film and they were all mic'd as well. So all of that magic that children come with and they bring the joy, all of it was captured. And those children weren't distracted by a huge boom arm in the sky to look up at all the time. But it also just meant that our on-set environment was really, really uncluttered. I, myself, as an actress, have always dreamt of being in a position where there were no crew in the room, just cameras. I thought, what would that be like? I wonder if we could ever do that. Because actually it does something to you as a performer when you don't feel observed, and it doesn't matter how good you get at tuning out the crew, and it doesn't matter how wonderful they are still there. And so I created a situation with our brilliantly supportive camera team, whereby we would lock off cameras, we would set focus, and they would walk away. And so these actors were truly left to just be together. And for the second... Oh, thank you. The crew was so supportive of this, and I love film crews, I respect them. We would be nothing without them. And I'm fortunate to have been doing this job as long as I have and built up some wonderful friendships with film crew members. And they were totally on board. They were with us as part of our rehearsal process, so they could learn from the actors what kind of thing they might consider offering in each scene. And they, as a camera team, would say, we've got you. Just give us a vague idea. We will get whatever comes out of your mouth, whatever is in your eyes, we will be there, and more fool us if we don't catch it. And they caught it every single time, and it was very special. I wanted to let the audience discover this family. This is a family who are dealing with a terminally ill parent, the matriarch played by Helen Mirren. This is a situation as a family they've been in for several years. So when you're dealing with long-term illness in that capacity, there's a degree of monotony that kind of kicks in with the hospital appointments. You go through the same sliding doors, you sit in the same chairs, the linoleum floors are the same, the vending machines, you know the button is C17 for the Snickers. You know, you get used to these things, and it was important to hold the space to show not just those areas that they had been occupying for several years, but the sense of which this family were emotionally flatlining whilst the matriarch was also slipping away. And the amount of coming together that they needed to do, that she needed for them to do, so that she could leave in peace and that they could give her a good goodbye. So I wanted to observe the spaces and the distance between these family members in the first half of our story, because you can read so much of the tension, not right here, but often in how far apart they choose to sit or choose to stand, which actual seats in the waiting room they sit in, one there and one there with your back slightly turned, so you don't have to look at the sister who you haven't spoken to or seen for several years. And then in the second half of the film, I really started to creep in closer. So you see the whites of Helen's eyes swimming with tears, you see the backs of her hands, the beautiful translucency of her skin, and the bravery that she displayed in really letting herself look extremely broken down was extraordinary. And actually, I will tell you, she didn't like it. She really found it hard, and she would say, I don't like it, I don't like the hair, I don't like the thing, I'm doing it for you. I'm doing it for you. Tell me what to do, tell me, you just tell me. She was wonderful, and actually became our matriarch, and I only had her for 16 days of a 35-day shoot. But we did it, and I was so proud of us all.
Right.